Hi, I'm Liselle Sambury and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things writing, traditional publishing, and a little bit of reading. And this is a bit of a different video. So what this is it's actually a compilation of a video series that I've been doing on TikTok, where every day that I work on it, I'm basically documenting how the drafting process goes for writing the second book in my new YA Dark Academia fantasy series, whose first book, A Mastery of Monsters, comes out in summer of 2025. And so every day I work on the book, I do one of these updates and I post it on TikTok. And so I created this compilation sort of video series here on YouTube to basically batch together each week's video into one YouTube video, just because the videos are kind of like, they're too long for YouTube Shorts, but they're also a little too short for me to want to post them every day on YouTube. And so for those of you that like my YouTube channel and you aren't really fans of TikTok, that's basically what these videos are. It's just all the videos for that week packed into one, so that you can watch this every week and you can kind of see the whole kind of videos for the week. I am still going to be doing my monthly writing vlogs, so you'll still see those, and those really include like other facets of my life and like b-roll and that sort of thing, whereas these are like very pointed, basically only about drafting this specific book. So without further ado, I will let you enjoy the compilation, and you may notice that this intro is the same for every compilation video. That's because I just wanted to do one intro that I can use for all of the compilation videos going forward. And of course, I will also put them in a playlist, which I have linked down below, so that as the series goes on, if you missed anything and there's a few videos, you can just watch the whole playlist of the compilation. And today is the first day of trying to write 2 chapters in a day instead of 1, which should be about 4,000 words, but because it's me, it ended up being 4,500 words. But I kind of expected that. But I did get 2 chapters done, and in like a good amount of time. Like, I did take a little break for lunch. I took like a half-hour break for lunch. I also had some other stuff to do, so I guess I ended up taking more like an hour break. But it worked out. I thought it would be a lot more tiring than it was, and maybe by the end of the week I will be singing a different tune. It will be more tiring, but so far this is actually, like, I feel like a good pace, and I would like to keep this up just because I know this book is going to be longer than the average bear, I suppose I should say. So I did 2 chapters today, as I said. So the first chapter was basically doing like a group training session. So they basically had to meet up and kind of, you know, perform something, or like try, well, how to explain it, kind of try and get out of something, using these kind of abilities that they have. And so this was like a point in which like the main character like actually like did well, but it's backfired on her a little bit, because she's like starting to have this issue of like people around her kind of like being jealous, and it's kind of increasing as she does better. And it's sort of a different thing from kind of being the underdog to starting to do well and starting to see that kind of like backfire on her. So some of that happening, also some romantic tension, of course, as always. And then in the second chapter, they basically have a bit of family time, so they go and spend time with her family. And then there's also a situation in which a character who the main character's kind of been dodging this whole time. It's just like there's a lot of secrets and this character just doesn't know about them, but she's starting to catch wind of things, and so the main character's kind of like trying to dodge getting involved in that. And so this is kind of the situation in which that character is like confronting her, and she's like, I really need to know what's going on, and she like decides to do something, you know, a little bit off the wall and go do that, and it ends up being this sort of thing in which, you know, stuff is revealed. So I liked that. I ended up changing some stuff on the fly. I feel like I've gotten into the murky middle of the book, because now I'm like changing perhaps too many things on the fly. So you know, I'm just like making decisions, because as I'm writing, I'm like, I actually think this would be more interesting in this place, or this would be more interesting here, or what if I did this here. And so it's not exactly according to plan, but I'm doing it anyway because I do think it works better for the book, and I will just have to edit it later, and that's part of the process. So that being said, I don't have any quotes for today because I don't know, I feel like both chapters are like a little bit messy because of me shifting things on the fly, and I don't feel like I have a quote that I'm like, I feel prepared to share with the world. So that's it for today. But yeah, I'm excited that writing the 2 chapters is working out because I think this will help me feel like I'm getting more accomplished each workday, because I was starting to feel like, you know, I'd write words and I'd write the 1 chapter and it was such a small dent in the overall project that I really just didn't like the pace. And so now I feel like I'm doing at a better pace, and this work period is still working well for me because I still finish at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so I still have lots of time for activities, and so I feel like this is a good way forward for me. And it took me approximately 1 day to decide that I'm not going to write 2 chapters a day anymore. I was ready to do it. I was ready to do it today. I sat down and I got distracted for an hour. And so I didn't actually start writing until like 10 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. I finished roughly at like 11:30 that first chapter, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break, I'm gonna have some lunch, I'm gonna get back to it. Cut to more distraction, 1 p.m. I'm sitting down, I'm like, okay, now it's time to write the second chapter. I don't want to. I just don't want to. I don't want to. And so I'm just not going to. And yeah, it was a lofty idea. It was an ambitious idea. I really respect my past self for thinking that I could do it. And it's not like it's something I've not done in the past. I had once a week where I was writing like 10,000 words a day. Like, I can do it, but do I want to do it? And that's kind of the difference. I don't want to, and I do want to get this book done faster, but I also don't want to do more work to get it done faster. It's, you know, a conundrum for sure. Anyway, so I only did 1 chapter today, and I'm probably only going to do 1 chapter tomorrow, and so on and so forth. And if that means it takes me 3 months to write this book, and then it takes me 3 months to write the book, and it's just, it is what it is. It is what it is. So that's where I'm at this point in time. So that's how things are going to be going. And yeah, I mean, hopefully I will finish to have enough time to edit it and do the things I want to do by the deadline. I'm sure that I will. And if not, I mean, it is a deadline for a first draft. I'd prefer not to send a first draft, but worst comes to worst, I can. So that's where I'm at today. So the chapter I wrote had 2 scenes. I'm starting to realize I have too many chapters that have 2 scenes, but in any case, this is how it went. So the last chapter, there was like a big reveal, and I realized that I wanted to kind of like debrief that reveal, and so that's why I added in this scene. I also realized that this scene I was going to have coming after it was not like something that could fill up a whole chapter. So I had a scene, basically something is revealed, and the main character has a bit of a conversation with that character who got that reveal finally. But she's also kind of a little suspicious of some other things, and she kind of brings that up a little bit. Yeah, that's something I'm setting up for the 3rd book. So not gonna even get to it in the 2nd book. I'm setting it up for the 3rd book. I'm playing a long game here. It's a trilogy. The 2nd scene, they go to the mall to have a meeting with a character, and basically to talk through some of this investigation stuff. And they do that, but this character has also kind of had a bit of a traumatic experience, which is something that the love interest could have, like a situation that he could have found himself in. And so there's a bit of like a conversation about what it was like to actually experience that, because it's kind of like this constant threat in the back of his mind that he's always thinking about. And now he has this opportunity to kind of meet someone that's experienced that and to be like, how was that? And the answer is more horrible than even he thought it would be. So yeah, that's the conversation they have, and it kind of leaves off there. and there's a bit of an extra hint of the mystery slash investigation there. I am starting to get concerned that maybe the pace is a little bit too slow in this section, but again, that's something for editing. A lot of the times I just kind of notice these things as I'm drafting, and then I just kind of let them sit and they will be fixed later. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And I do have a little bit of a quote here. So it is a conversation, so I'm not a voices person, but I'll try and make it feel distinct. So anyway, he plays the victim and you enable him, all of you. You don't know him. Nolan just smiles and returns to the house. I stand there on the porch repeating what I said in my head. You don't know him. So yeah, that's my little quote, and I will see you again tomorrow. And today I woke up feeling pretty good because I was like, wow, I only have to write one chapter today. I've somehow tricked my brain into thinking that I'm doing less work, even though I'm doing the same amount of work I was doing previously, but I'm not doing the more work that I thought I could do and gave up on immediately. And somehow this hack is working for my brain. I did still procrastinate in the morning for like 45 minutes, as I am wont to do, but I did get down to writing. Once again, we have a chapter with 2 scenes. I have too many chapters with 2 scenes, but again, just moving on past it. But this was a fun one because I've made it so that the new team of 3, there's going to be like a formal ball and they have to do a dance together, and usually it would be 2 people, but because of the circumstances it's now going to be 3 people, which I think is just gonna be great for all sorts of romantic tension type things, and also just general awkwardness, but also team building in a way. So they had to do a sort of dance practice, and August, the main character, she really likes dancing, so this is actually like a great moment for her because so much of her life has kind of like been turned upside down by this whole secret society thing. And she's kind of been pushed to having to do all these things that she didn't necessarily want to do. And now she's getting to do something that is like related to her passion and something that she's interested in. She's the only person excited about it, but she's excited about it. So that was a fun scene to get into. And then the second scene, they are breaking into a place. Again, more breaking and entering, but this is kind of like part of the investigation that is joint with the second POV character, and so this is a place where they know they kind of have to try and see if they can find some stuff here, and so as a group they've kind of decided to break in there and like get into it. And so they were doing that whole thing, which is nice because I feel like I don't have as many chapters with the main character interacting with the other POV character. It like feels like they're a little bit too separate, so it was nice because in this chapter you get some of August interacting with the other POV character, and then the next chapter will be from that other POV, so then we'll get some of her as well. It's just nice to, I don't know, I think it's fun to get like 2 POV characters like interacting with each other, and maybe it's because when I've done my other books where I have 2 POVs, which is Delicious Monsters and Tender Beasts, those POVs have been in different time periods, and so there's not really a lot or any at all interaction, and so it's kind of, yeah, I don't know, it's fun to get to do that in this case and get to actually like put that together. So yeah, that was kind of it for today. I don't think I have any quotes. There wasn't anything that I think was like particularly stand out in a way, and I think as I get more towards the middle, like some of the quotes that I might think would be like okay are actually like, I don't know, it's like getting too deep into the weeds now that it's like a little bit spoilery. But hopefully I will have some quotes later down the line, but there just wasn't anything in this particular one. But maybe tomorrow, because the other POV character is maybe a little bit more poetic, so maybe she'll have something to say in that vein. But otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. We are back to my normal, I don't really want to write sort of motivation level. I'm once again like, man, it's gonna take me a long time to write this book, but I did plug in my figures into Notion the other day and it said I was like 43% of the way through, so that's almost 50%, so I'm feeling a little bit better in that I'm like, I'm almost halfway through. But anyway, Today's chapter was from that second POV, which was really good. It was a really good chapter for her as a character. I feel like I got to hit on a lot of things, which I really liked, and I didn't think I was gonna get to do that much when I sat down to write the chapter. But essentially they're still in the process of this whole breaking and entering thing. They're trying to find out information for this investigation that they're doing, that's like a joint investigation between her and the main character. There's a bit of overlap in the things that they are both interested in. And so this is the case in which she is basically getting her kind of chance to be part of that investigation and like work together. So there was a bunch of stuff in it. There was stuff for like her arc, and there was also love interest stuff, and then her like ex showed up, and then there was a bunch of stuff with that. It was just like, it was a whole heap of different things going on for her as a character. But I also felt like it was a really good, like, meaty chapter in terms of like getting to a lot of her character arc stuff and kind of working through that, especially given that she doesn't have so many chapters in this book. It's like a bit of a challenge to make sure that she's getting enough time for all of her character stuff to be happening, and I feel like she really did get enough time, and I was able to get into like her using this weapon that she's trying to kind of have mastery of and that sort of thing. So I feel like it was a very good, productive chapter, and I was really pleased with how everything came together. I was like, oh, this is really good. Like, I'm very proud of myself and this chapter. So yeah, it was just like a good time overall. Her love interest, who I said before, I've been having trouble with her arc. Like, I planned out her arc, but I actually don't think it's like appropriate for her character. There was supposed to be something for her arc in this chapter, but again, it just didn't feel appropriate. So I just ended up not even addressing it, and I'm just gonna fix it when I go to do edits. There was also supposed to be like a different kind of investigation thing that I had planned out, and then the chapter for one was getting too long. And then I was just like, you know what? I actually think it's gonna work. Like, I was gonna have them search through the different books and like decide, is this book useful or is that book useful, and blah 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 blah, which probably would have taken another like 500 words. But then I realized that because of reasons, nobody else can actually get into this place where they have the books, so they should just take the books and figure that out later and have a separate chapter where they can go through all the stuff they found in the books. And I feel like that's a much better use of like chapters and time. I may have to add in a new chapter for this POV character just to do that, but I just think this will work better. But anyway, I do have a quote for today. I do feel like the quote probably, like, once a Mastery of Monsters comes out, this quote will definitely spoil who this new POV character is, but I really like it, so I'm just gonna share it anyway, and it's okay because it's not actually like a spoiler for the book. It's just like the quote makes it obvious who the POV is. Anyway, here we go. So it is: I swallow and squeeze my eyes shut, practically slapping my face to get rid of the tears. I don't want to think about ifs and buts and what could have beens, as if I don't want my best friend back. I want that, more than the presidency, more than the scythe, more than anything. But it isn't going to happen, so why think about it? Why imagine things that aren't going to happen? I need to look forward to what's still possible. So that's the quote, and I'm excited about it. I thought it was good. It was like, it's part of like a bigger scene, and I feel like that whole scene is just like really good. I feel like this is a chapter where I'm like, I'm really, really proud of what I did in this chapter. I just think it is so solid, and it is so voicey for the character, and I just feel like it's great. So even though I wasn't super motivated, I'm really proud of what I produced. We are officially at the halfway point. So I did a bit of an extra push today. I saw that I was only, you know, when I finished today, if I'd done one chapter, I would have been one chapter away from the midpoint. But if I did 2 chapters, I would be at the midpoint. And so I decided that I would rather put in the extra work today and get to that midpoint. It also helped that these were like 2 like fun, engaging chapters, and so I wasn't really like you know, upset or anything about getting into them. So yeah, I did 2 chapters today. We're at 59,000 words, which is basically 60,000 words, which is basically the halfway point based on my new word count that I set up. So chapters that I wrote today. So the first chapter was basically like this, more of that dance training that they have to do. So they have to do this ballroom dance thing. Not necessarily ballroom style dance, they're doing more of like a lyrical style dance, contemporary dance. Anyway, so they had to do another practice session. And basically they're kind of not bringing the right emotionality to it, and so their dance teachers kind of like, you know, make note of that, and so that becomes like a kind of focus of that dance chapter. And then they go and they meet up with their kind of like student mentor. So they have like a professor mentor and a student mentor, and they meet up with her and they do a little bit of training, and there's a little bit of like romantic tension banter which I like, and the main character becomes kind of embroiled in a little bit of matchmaking herself with someone else, and it doesn't really go as expected. So that's that chapter. So that was like fun for me, in that I find the dance scene stuff so fun. It feels to me like so, I don't know, just like that moment in a book that you know has a romance where you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so juicy to have in here. That's what it feels like. So that was really fun to do. And then the second chapter, which is like partially why I was like cool to jump into it, was supposed to be just the ball. And I actually ended up changing it. I did 2 scenes again, as I am wont to do. And the first scene, I basically had them kind of like come back together because they broke and enter, like not the last chapter, the chapter before that, they broke and entered into this place, and they like got these clue things. And because I didn't have time in the chapter for them to like go through what they had collected, I basically created a scene for them to meet up all together and talk about what they discovered. So basically it kind of gave the other investigation character kind of time to be like, oh, they were investigating this in the background, and like now they're sharing what they found, which is basically what I was supposed to do in that other chapter, and I was just like, there's not enough time to do this. So I put that into this chapter instead to make sure that we could have a moment to come back to that, so that the investigation and kind of the stance of the investigation can be decided at that point. And so I was able to do that in that scene, which I was very excited about. And then we went to the ball scene with the ball, and which cut to me going on Instagram and looking up dresses and stuff so I can describe it for the main character. So they do the dance, and of course when they do the dance, all the emotionality comes together, and so they become, you know, this group of 3 that hasn't kind of really meshed together well so far, meshed together very well in this dance. You know, it comes together, and so I just had a great old time doing that. It was very fun for me, and so I think that's why I was able to do the 2 chapters today and like be cool with it. Also I had woken up early, and so I got a little bit more writing time in, and so I was still gonna finish roughly around noon. So yeah, I was able to do that and do that chapter, and now we're at the midpoint, and I'm very excited about it. Okay. And I do have a little quote passage. I don't think it's particularly lyrical or anything, but it is like sort of more of a character thing. But the quote is, "Maybe it's kind of cringy, but I remember watching a music video, just randomly suggested on YouTube, and seeing the way the dancers moved. How I immediately wanted to do that too, was willing to spend hours in my room copying the moves exactly. Up until that point, I'd never had anything that felt like my own. I had mom's lessons and her and dad's pressure to do well in school. That was it. I thought that was all I would ever have until that moment." So yeah, it's just a nice little character moment for her, and kind of getting a bit into why dance is important to her and her life and all of that. So yeah, I thought that was nice. And yeah, now I'm gonna get to take the weekend off, and I will see you again on Monday.